Hello there. It's been a while since I recorded the last video. Well, I was busy with other stuff in life. But anyway, I was playing this Lichess4545 online league, and yesterday I played the game in the, I think, last round, round 8, and I played it with black. So let me show you this game. I think there were some instructive moments. Okay, let's start. My opponent, you can see he was a bit lower rated than me, but well, he doesn't really matter. At this level, anyone can blunder, and opponents at this level know how to exploit the blunder. So uh, it doesn't really matter. This a little bit lower rating. So he opened with knight f3, and well, on this move I usually have three responses. One is to play c6 and we're preparing d5, so going for some kind of slash setup or Karakan. It usually transposes either to Karakan or Slav defense. Another one is, if I want to completely confuse my opponent, is just to play this Dark Knight setup, knight c6, and hope for some kind of Chigorin game. And the third choice is just to play simple d5. So, and see how things will go. He plays d4 here, and well, computer immediately says that this is equal. So theoretically, black equalizes. But okay, it doesn't mean much on this level, and also, like always, I don't know any opening theory here. I just play logical chess and try to play some logical move, develop, fight for center, and so on. I continue with knight f6, so I just logically develop my queenside knight. He plays e3 here, rather passive. And now the best move in this position, according to engine and book, is just to play immediately c5. And this c5 move, this is what I usually play against the London setup. So if, for example, this bishop was here, if he played bishop to f4 instead of e3, I would most certainly play c5 here. But c5 actually is the best move. And the best response for passive play from white. But for some reason I didn't play this c5. It gambits the pawn just temporarily, because after e6 you can just grab this pawn back. If he tries to defend it, you can just play a5, and one of these four pawns will soon fall. So I should play c5 here, but I didn't. I played bishop f5, so normal developing move. He played now c4. So since I didn't play c5, then he played c4. Okay, I still continued my normal development, so the bishop is out. I can now. So this is the usual logic. So you want to develop this bishop. In order to develop this bishop, you have to move this pawn, but you don't want to move this pawn before you free this bishop up. So this was just my simple logic. So bishop is out. Now I can play e6 and try to develop this bishop. He played a knight c3 here, and now I was thinking how to develop this bishop. The suggested move by the engine and the book is to play bishop b4 here, pinning this knight. He will most likely unpin immediately. And okay, then this bishop is not the best piece in the world, and my bishop is okay. It can be remaneuvered very easily, and I can castle. So this was the best move here. But I decided to play c5 now, because I was hoping maybe he will take, then I can develop my bishop this way. And this is actually a bad move, and this is variated +1 and even more for white, because white has now this queen b3, which I missed. I didn't see this move. And from here, from here he attacks both d5. Now d5 is attacked 3 times, and he also attacks this b7. So this is well, this is a very tricky line, and it is actually very bad for black. But okay, he didn't see this. Instead, he played knight h4. He just went for my bishop pair, and I was okay with this. So my goal is to develop, fast development, control of the center, and if he wants to waste 3 moves to get to my bishop, it's okay. Because also this is another philosophy. On this level, I don't think bishop pair means so much, especially in this early game. So we both have 8 pawns, so we don't still know if the game will be opened or it will be closed. So we don't even know how will bishop pair work in this position. So and generally I don't care much about bishops. On a grandmaster level, I know the grandmasters like bishops, and they are not afraid of knights, but I personally am much more afraid of knight than of bishop because of all the tactical resources knight have, and I don't have a grandmaster board vision, so I can be very easily fooled with the knight. And if you remember, I think it was the last game or the game before this, I think it was the game before, in which I lost the end game. I had like 20 minutes and my opponent had 1 minute. I had bishop, he had knight, and I lost all my time just doing blunder checks because I was afraid of forks. So anyway, long introduction, but I don't care about this bishop, and it's my weak bishop, my bad bishop, because all my pawns are on the light square. So anyway, and if he takes, I can take, and then I have this pawn structure, which is actually nice structure, and also controls the center, and so it's okay. So I just continued my development. Engine here has some other ideas, and I saw this, but I decided not to go for this. I can create the isolated pawn just by taking on c5. And usually when you have this kind of pawn structure, someone will end up with an isolated pawn. So here I could just take c takes d4, and after he takes back, I take this. After he takes, then he ends up with the isolated pawn, which is not a weakness in itself. I mean, I personally like playing with isolated queen pawn as white, but when I have all the pieces on the board, and when I can coordinate pieces. But here in this position, if he would left with isolated pawn, this piece is not very good, and it will most likely be exchanged. So maybe he doesn't have this dynamical potential to play with isolated queen pawn. So anyway, engine suggests I should go for that option, but I saw this and I decided not to go for that. So I played knight c6 here, and he took the bishop, I just took back, and now he played queen f3, the move I didn't see, and the engine doesn't think this is the best move, and probably because of the moves which followed. So this is a very, very aggressive move, and it attacks 2 points. Sorry. So both of my pawns are now under attack. This f5 pawn is undefended, and d5 pawn is now attacked 3 times and defended only 2 times. So I have to think about how to deal with this, and I took some time. If you can see the clock now, okay, I took 5 minutes, and I decided to play c takes d4, which is actually the best move according to the engine. And why was I thinking so much? Because I was afraid. Well, he immediately took e takes d4, but I was afraid of this line. So instead of taking with the pawn, he could just take this d5 pawn. And now after I take, he takes, and now this position was unclear to me. I wasn't sure what to do. The engine suggests I should just check here and continue my development. I was thinking more something like knight e7, and then maybe after g6 fianchetto my bishop or something like this. So this was unclear, and I was thinking about is this worse for me? And well, my conclusion was it is unclear. So I decided to play this because I was thinking like this. So okay, so I take. If he takes my d5 pawn, then this is unclear, then I can deal with unclear. And if he takes with the pawn, then I will have the advantage because I have some combinations in my sleeve, which you will see later. So I was hoping that he will take with the pawn. and he did take with pawn, so I took with the knight, and now I'm attacking lots of things. So his queen is attacked, and I'm also um, threatening this knight to c2 with this fork, just winning the rook. And well, he doesn't have many moves here. He can either go to queen d1 and thus protect c2, or he can deliver check. So we play the forcing move, and this is what he did. So he played the queen e3 check. If he played queen d1, then now attacking my knight, my plan was just to play bishop c5, and the engine agrees with this move. So I'm now protecting my knight. My knight is on the center of the board, and I can safely castle, play g6, and I have a very good position. So he decided to give this check, and well, I interposed and offered the queen exchange. So I'm up a pawn, so I'm up in material. So queen exchange is, well, at least for that reason, is good, and I'm still threatening this knight c2. So it's, well, if he decided to take, I take back, he still has to deal with this threat. This pawn can be weak, and okay, I evaluated that. I mean, what could I do in this position? And he's also threatening my knight, so I could retreat the knight, and I would just probably lose my d5 pawn. And at some point, or if I would block with the bishop, he would just take my knight. So I think this is almost forcing move, and now his queen is pinned, he cannot take my knight. And now he has to deal again with my threat, knight to c2, if he doesn't want to exchange queens. And he played the bishop d3 here, and this is also considered the best move by the engine. But now he has several problems because of my next move. So I can just take d takes c4, and he cannot take back because I will just win his queen. So he has to move his bishop, and well, he can sacrifice it, and the engine even thinks the best move is just to let this bishop go and to castle, because everything is too dangerous. But okay, the logical move, the move I will play almost instantly, just bishop to b1. So this is the only place the bishop can go and still guard c2 square. And he was thinking quite a lot about this. I don't know why. Maybe he was thinking some other tactical opportunities. Maybe he was considering just taking my queen with check, and okay. Anyway, he played this move, and I just played g6, so consolidating this pawn, and I'm now 2 pawns up, so this pawn is safe, now this pawn is safe, and you can see that this bishop is very bad bishop now. It cannot go anywhere. So all the squares are taken, and he's just staring at my pawns here. And like I said, this pawn structure, I like this pawn structure. I don't have anything against this. So after he took with the knight. And now he has a bad bishop, and I am 2 pawns up. So computer evaluation is minus 3.5. So 2 pawns up, plus he has a piece out of play. So this should be theoretically easy win, but it's, well, it was nothing but easy, and you will see why. So he just castled, and I played here queen takes e3. So I just decided to go for the queen exchange. So why not? I am 2 pawns up, and I should go to the end game. With the 2 pawns up in the end game, I should win. So there are no need to keep the queens on the board and to try to outcalculate him in the middle game when I'm 2 pawns up. So I just took. Engine doesn't like this. He thinks it was better to long castle and then see some control. But this is usual stuff with engine. So even if you are a full piece up or even a rook up, the engine will not exchange queens so easily. So engine likes his queens because well, he can calculate with infinite precision, and he's not afraid of your opponent queen, and he just evaluates the position. But from the human perspective, if you are up material and I'm up 2 pawns, and this is a lot, so I just exchange the queens. Bishop takes e3 now, and okay, he's now attacking my knight, and again the best move was to long castle, and I will defend my knight, and also my king will join this queenside pawn majority. And this was actually, I see now that this was the best move. But in the game, I didn't even consider this move. So this is one example when there is an obvious candidate move and you don't even consider it. Because I was so focused on the castling short side, so my plan was to bring this bishop out somewhere and then just to short castle, and I never even considered long castle. If I have considered this as a candidate move, I would most likely play this because, well, this is a really good move. My king is safe here, it's on the light squares, and his light square bishop cannot do anything. And I have rook here, and anyway. I didn't see this move, so I just moved my knight away. I played knight e6, and he now played rook d1. Well, and now we come to the title of this video. I was analyzing this position, and I saw that this pawn is rather lonely, and I was afraid that he will somehow attack my pawn and I will not be able to defend this. Because in this position, if this pawn would get attacked somehow, how can I defend it? Not very easily. I can defend it with my rook maybe, and if it will be attacked again, then I cannot bring any more defenders because this b5 square is taken, and these knights cannot come defend this pawn in one move. So when he played rook to d1, I was afraid that he will go just rook to d4, and then he will somehow pick up my pawn. So this was a pure paranoia. And I was analyzing this rook here on the d file, and I noticed, I said, okay, so this square is taken, this square is taken, this square is so this square is controlled, this square is controlled. So I concluded, okay, I don't have to afraid about rook penetrating my camp, but I should be afraid of this. And I just didn't see that this square is also controlled. So this is very interesting from the improvement perspective and psychological perspective, and whatever you want to call this. People usually refer to this as a tunnel vision. This is just when you don't see something very, very obvious on the board. And I had this moment here. So although this was not a blitz game, this was obviously a long game, I had plenty of time, I was concentrated, I had my real board and pieces in front of me. So I don't have any excuses. I wasn't distracted, I wasn't tired, I wasn't sick, nothing. So I had perfect conditions, I had plenty of time, so everything was okay, but still I didn't see this very, very simple fact that he cannot play rook d4. And I cannot explain this, and I don't know how to fight against this, except to just well, continue to play chess, continue to do chess, and maybe this tunnel vision will just go away. So it doesn't matter how many books I read, how many master games I went through, how much tactics I did, and how much time did I spend on tactical drills. I just well, didn't see this simple, very, very simple fact that this d4 square is also controlled, like all these other squares I saw were controlled. So I was responding to this unexisting threat, and my plan was to play a6 and b5. And this plan is not bad in itself, so even if I did see this plan should still be okay, because I am consolidating my pawns on the light squares, and he practically doesn't have the light square bishop, and these pawns will be very safe here. And if I could put my pawns here on b5 and a6, then his bishop will, well, it will be a really, really bad piece, because it will not be able to go anywhere. So this was a good plan, but for wrong reasons. So I played e6, hoping to play b5. And my opponent saw this. So he saw that I want to play b5, and he saw that this will be a complete disaster for him, because then this pawn will no longer be a target, and like I said, his light square bishop will be completely trapped. So from now on, he was playing against, he was doing anything in his power just to stop this pawn to b5, and he did a very good job here. So first he played bishop b6. Now I cannot play b5, obviously, and I have to think about how to play this b5. I was still afraid of rook d4, because, like I said, I had this tunnel vision. So bishop c5 here, I wanted to exchange. So, well, my strategy here is to exchange. I have 2 pawns up. If I could exchange all the pieces, it will be the one endgame. So I offered this exchange here, and I thought that, well, he doesn't have any choice. If he moves his bishop, I'll just play b5, and everything will be great. And here he found an excellent move, which I didn't see. This is knight to a4. Now, this was another benefit of this move. b5 is to block his knight. His knight would also be blocked, nowhere to go. So he played knight a4, and now he's attacking my bishop twice, and he's also defending his bishop. And if I would to take his bishop, then he could go, he could just take the bishop back, and then this pawn falls, because I have no way to defend this. I cannot defend it by rook c8, because, well, obviously I would lose my rook. So if takes, and I lose this pawn. So very good move from my opponent. So I played rook c8 here. Engine suggests some other moves here, like just retreating the bishop. But I was still responding to the unexisting threat, so I was still afraid of rook d4. So never in the game I realized that I was controlling d4. I just realized this later when I went through the game. And it is also interesting. When I went through the game, I immediately saw, oh, but I'm controlling d5. What was I afraid of? So later I saw this immediately, but in the game I didn't see this. Okay. So I played rook c8, hoping that, okay, I can, in this way I can defend my pawn. So after some exchanges or after this bishop moves, I have this pawn defended. Well, my opponent plays bishop c2. And, well, the computer thinks the better was just to take on c5, but I cannot blame him. I mean, this is a very logical move. He has to do something about this bishop, and this bishop here was not only inactive, but it also blocked the coordination of his rooks. So I think this was a good move from my opponent, because he saw, okay, everything is fixed. I mean, no threats here. This position can hold. So let's just improve the pieces. Let's try to do something with this bishop and the coordinate rooks. And well, now it was my turn to move, and I just decided to play castle here. So I didn't like, this was, let's say, a prophylactic move. So I didn't like the idea that my king is exposed. I didn't like this idea. So this knight is protecting the bishop. This rook is also protecting the bishop and the pawn. So in some variations, I guess it's possible that both of these pieces move away. And then he has this move. It's not very likely, and I didn't calculate this all the way, but well, it's unpleasant. So he has this move, maybe. Maybe he can double up his rooks, and then he has this move, and I don't like this, and I don't like my king being in the center of the board. So I follow the same logic as my opponent. So this position is pretty much fixed here. So he improved his piece, so I did the same. So I also thought, okay, everything is fixed here. I can just improve my position. And by castling, although the engine doesn't like this, I just coordinate my rooks. My king is now safe. I can bring my other rook in the game. So I don't see anything wrong with this move. Knight takes c5, so he decides to go for my bishop, and now he has a bishop pair, and I have a knight pair, so I take with the knight, and well, now he played rook d4, so now he can play rook d4 when my knight moved. And well, now he has a bishop pair, and I have two knights, and I don't think that his bishop pair is a huge advantage. Okay, I still have 2 pawns, so I'm minus 2.7, so I have obvious advantage. But even if even without this material advantage, this bishop is very poor. It still cannot go anywhere, and I have 2 knights. which can be very annoying and with many tactical opportunities. So I don't mind having 2 knights against 2 bishops here. And now my pawn finally gets attacked. I have to do something about this, and I still cannot play this b5 move. So I decided to play knight c to d7, attacking this bishop, hoping that this bishop will move away, and then I can finally play my b5 move. But he played something which is, in my opinion, excellent move, and this is rook d6. So he's playing really well here, and he really wants to prevent me from playing this b5 and have a solid pawn structure here. And in this position, there is nothing much I can do. The engine suggests I should just play rook e8 here. Well, this is a very calm move, and well, it's probably the best. But from my perspective, well, this knight is unprotected. It's protected only by this knight. So, and this knight is protected only by this knight. So, if, for example, if I would take, and why is this a problem? Because if I take, for example, the bishop, then I have both knights undefended, and now he can just take my my knight here on b6, and from here he attacks both b7 and f6 knight, and then I will lose at least a pawn. So I was thinking a lot about this, and I was even thinking how can I trap his rook. For example, in some scenarios, maybe I could even be able to trap his rook. So I was calculating this, and I did. This was the move which saves the position, but this means that I will have the isolated pawns, and still this c4 pawn is very hard to defend. So I wanted to avoid this move, and I spent quite some time calculating. But at the end, I did play rook c6, and if you see how much time I spent 7 minutes. So a long time, given that this is 45 minutes for a game. So I spent 7 minutes, and I didn't find anything better. I just had to play rook to c6, and well, I have to congratulate my opponent to play in such a manner that he basically forced me to play this move and to worsen my position. So he wasn't desperate. He was 2 pawns down, but he was constantly looking for a way to create weaknesses and to pick up my pawns. So he played a logical move here. Rook takes c6, and now I took with the pawn. And now, well, I have plenty of weaknesses. He played the bishop d4 here. Well, maybe bishop a4 was better, because now I can just attack his bishop by playing c5. He didn't see the better option than to exchange, and this favors me, so bishop takes f6, knight takes f6. Okay, now I'm 2 pawns up, and well, there are very few pieces on the board. So let's see how the game continued. Rook c1, so now if he moves the bishop, then he attacks my c4 pawn, which I cannot defend. So all the time it's everything about this c4 pawn, which is very difficult to defend, especially now when I have the double pawns, so I cannot bring the pawn to defense. So, well, the only thing I could do is to make a counter attack. So, okay, if you take this, I will take this, and maybe this. So he played b3 here. I was happy to get rid of my weak pawn, to exchange my weak pawn, and bishop takes d3. And now, okay, now he's attacking c5, but it's easy to defend it, just rook c8, and this is on the dark square, so it cannot be attacked twice, so I'm safe here. Engine here would like me to play knight to d7, but well, this is a bit annoying, so he can try to attack my knight, and if I move away my knight, then he cannot win my pawn, because it will be just a back rank mate. But I don't like these kind of positions, because okay, at this moment he cannot do this, but he can play the pawn move at any time, and then I have all these threats suddenly opened up. So I don't like relying on this back rank mate, because I tend to you tend to rely on this too much, and then at some point he just plays h3, and suddenly our position collapses because he suddenly can play moves which he didn't be able to play before. So I don't like this situation, so I just play simple rook c8. Bishop c4 here. Now he's blocking my pawn and attacking my pawn. And I was a bit tired now. It was already some 2 hours in the game, and I was calculating several things here, something like this. I don't know what all, and then suddenly it maybe took me a minute to realize that he's actually attacking my pawn. So I guess the tiredness was in effect at this point already. But okay, finally I did see this threat, and I responded. So I put my other pawn on the dark square, and well, now I usually, the only thing I'm afraid of is if he could push his rook on b5, and then he can attack both of my pawns. So I have to be afraid of this. And also, if I try to defend these pawns with my knight, this should be from the light squares, so I can defend either by putting knight on d7 or b7, but in both cases he can harass my knight. So I cannot rely on this defense from the knight, because the knight is on the light square and it can be harassed. So this is tricky. I have to be careful about this. So he blocked my pawn here. Okay. And now I played knight to e4. So the idea was to remaneuver my knight to d6, so on the dark square, which will control b5. So this was a very important idea. And so I thought, okay, if my knight was on d6, it is controlling b5. I don't have to be afraid of this double threat here. And also my knight is on the dark square, so he cannot be harassed. And also I can just, in 2 moves, bring my king to protect this knight. And well, my knight can be here forever, and I don't need to be afraid of this double attack. So this was the idea behind this knight e4 move. Bishop to a6, now attacking my rook. This time I saw this, so I just moved my rook to c7. Now the rook is also all the dark squares. He played f3, harassing my knight, and my knight is now on d6. So this was my plan all along. And now he decides to bring his king up, which is, I think, a good decision. I could go also with my king, but I was thinking that it will be better to restrict his king immediately. So I played f4, and now, well, his king doesn't have many squares. And I wasn't sure about this move when I analyzed the game, but when I turned on the engine says this is the best move in the position, so I guess my intuition was good here. So he continues to bring his king up, king e2. Now I'm also bringing my king in the game by playing king f8. And well, here, according to the engine, and well, also according to the common sense when I think about it, this king should be playing on the king side. So king g7 was the better move. And now this king can join the pawn majority here and try to create a passed pawn here. And the king is much safer here behind the enemy pawns than here when it can be. So if my king goes here, then it can be checked. So I think this is more of the question of strategy. So where should the king play, on the queen side or on the king side? I was thinking queen side because I wanted my king to defend this knight, and then maybe these pawns. I was even thinking in something like this to bring my king on b6 and protect these pawns. Okay, so maybe this was a wrong strategical endgame decision. So my king should probably stick to the king side. But okay, I play king f8. So this is one interesting point to think about endgame strategy. He continued with his king, and then I realized that he cannot go anywhere. So all these squares, all these squares are covered. So his king cannot move forward. I don't have to be afraid of his king. And here I made a mistake. This is a typical pawn play mistake. I played f5. So I was thinking, if his king is going to play on the queen side, then I can create passed pawn here on the king side. And this was a bad move, so I should play it h5 here. And then when he blocks, then I can just build up my pawn chain. Sorry, I should have played h5 here. And this is the correct way to break, because I should have anticipated this h4 move. And but I played f5, and this was a mistake, and then he played the h4 move. And now I didn't know well how to break, so I just played h6, hoping to break somehow here. And this was also not a good move. Much better was just to bring my king again to the king side and to join my king in this pawn break attempt. But okay, I played h6. He played bishop c4, and now he's offering me the exchange. And well, in principle, I'm a heading material, so I would favor the exchange. But in this position, I wasn't very sure, because well, he can very easily block my two pawns here, and then it can lead to a draw here. So I was thinking about this, and well, I didn't see any better option, so I just took. And the computer says I should just continue with my plan of creating passed pawn with the help of my king. So I just took, and if he would take with the king here, king takes c4, then technically this is a drawish position. So if the two grandmasters were playing here, this would be a draw. And of course, on our level, it doesn't mean it will end up in draw. It will, the game will still continue. But okay, this was a mistake from my part. This knight takes c4, and he could achieve a draw here. So, but he took with the rook, and well, this is a logical move. I mean, he's activating his rook, he's attacking this pawn. So, I mean, I cannot blame my opponent from playing this. Maybe I should. I would also probably play something like this. So I had to play now g5 because my f4 pawn was attacked, and now he played h5 here. And at this point I realized that I don't have a pawn break here actually, because if I play now g4, okay, if he takes, then I can take, and then I have a pawn break. But if I play g4, and he doesn't have to take, he doesn't have to do anything, and I don't have a pawn break here, because if I take, he takes, and then his one pawn blocks my two pawns. So this is why if you have the, I mean, I know this from the theory, but this is the first time I see this in practice. So if you have pawn majority, and but with double pawns, you cannot create a passed pawn without the help of the king or some other piece. So this is also a useful lesson, which I knew from before, but now I think I will remember it better. So in this position I cannot create a passed pawn without the help of my king. So this was why the engine suggested that I should bring up my king earlier in the game. So I played king e7, so I'm bringing up my king now. What else? He goes rook c1. He wants to activate his rook. King d7 here. Okay, computer says the better was to give this check, but okay, it's not easy to evaluate this position. I was just following the logic to bring my king up. King c4, now he's blocking my pawn, and I played king c6, just blocking his king. So the position now is minus 1.6, so I have the advantage, but it's not the winning advantage anymore. And he had some good chances here, so he could play something like rook e1, and then he can check. This pawn is weak. This is a passer if this pawn on h6 falls. So very tricky position. And well, the engine wanted me to play here queen b7 and allow his rook to go behind my pawns and go behind his pawns. So his rook will go. Sorry. So this rook will go behind my pawns, and my rook will go behind his pawns, and then we will eat the pawns from each other, and well, this will be a complete chaos. I didn't want this because I cannot calculate how this madness would end with my rook here and with his rook here. So I decided just to play safely. He played rook d1, and I think this was a mistake. Like I said, more logical would be to play rook e1 with many threats. So he can threat to check here, and he can go to the 8th rank and to try to harass my pawns and so on. So he played rook d1 here, and now I played rook b7 because now he doesn't have a check, and I have this check. So this check, and I can pick up this pawn maybe, or I can just attack this pawn, or I can just go here and make something like this. So at this position, when his king is blocked and my king is out of checks, I felt comfortable to get my rook ready to penetrate behind the enemy pawns. And well, here he just blundered. This was almost 2.5 hours game, and he played rook d5. He probably thought that now he will just capture my pawn because I cannot defend my pawn here. So he thought that he has my pawn, but unfortunately this just loses the rook because a rook b4 check, and now, well, he has to move his king, and then I can just take his rook. So this was a blunder, and I think probably when he played this, so I was wondering why did he play rook d1 and not rook e1, but probably this was his plan all along, to pick up my pawn, because I cannot defend it so easily. But okay, and now it was just a blunder. I took the rook, and we played just sort of more moves. And I now just have to promote the pawn and deliver checkmate. So if this was a blitz game or a bullet game, then maybe he could hope for a stalemate, because if I get a queen here, I control many squares already, and with the queen, many squares will be controlled, so he could hope that I will make a mistake and deliver stalemate. He can just sacrifice these pawns, or try to block somehow and fight for stalemate. But well, in a longer game, there is not. It's not very likely that I would allow stalemate. So just he just resigned here. And also one other thing is, well, time management. You can see that I was in the pretty much in the time trouble. So this kind of end game, if you can see my time. So this is very complicated end game. I have only 3 minutes left, and my opponent has 14 minutes. So again, I had some troubles with time management. So 3 minutes here, 2 minutes. So when it says 2 minutes, I have 45 seconds. So I was minute and a half at one point. Here I was 2 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes. I got some time, and here it was the most critical was here. You can see 53 seconds. So that means that I had only 7 seconds when I played this move. So I was thinking about this position, like I said. I was thinking about should I go into this penetration plan or not, and it took me 2 minutes, and well, I was on 7 seconds when I played this move. But okay, I did have some time trouble, but I was much more calmer than before. So in my last several games, I also went to the end game with the time trouble, but then I panicked, and I had like 2 minutes on the clock, and I just played blitz moves. And now I learned that this 45-second increment is in fact a lot, and that I don't have to be panicked. So here I didn't panic. So okay, I had 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I was thinking, I was evaluating, and well, my time dropped below 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 10 seconds, and then I just calmly played this move. So maybe this was something I learned with experience, that I don't have to panic when I have 2 minutes on the clock in these 45 games. I can just play calmly and just make a move when I have a few seconds left. 45 seconds is is enough time, and in the end games you often have some quick obvious moves, recaptures or something in which you can get time. Okay, so well, this is it for today. This Lichess season is over now. I think the next season starts in 2 weeks, so I will definitely join, and I will play the games. I will analyze them on a YouTube channel. If you like this video, then please click the like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel. If you didn't, by all means leave the comment below. I'm always interested to hear your comments on the game and on whatever other stuff related to chess you have to say. And well, see you soon next time. Cheers.